Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Take a seat. AG Sports. Thanks again for joining, guys. If you watched last night's game, it was crazy in the second half. If you remember, and I didn't harp on this too much last week, guys, but I think a lot of people were leaning towards the under in that Colts-Ravens game. And at the time, it was like at 48. It was at 47, and I had it capped at like 48, and I even remarked on this is really close, so I'm not going to touch it because, something could go crazy. We could have some bad turnovers, whatever, and give some touchdowns. Well, it's exactly what happened, and so luckily we were not on that game, and we kind of dodged a bullet with that one. It went over, didn't go over by too much, basically by 9 points, I think, something like that. Anyways, it ended up going over. Crazy game. But the first half of that game was just god-awful. It was just slow and boring and hard to watch. And then to top it off, I was watching other games to just kind of, go back into handicapping and see what else I could find out about certain teams. And one of the teams I had to watch this week was the Lions and the Vikings. And that game, oh my god, that was so hard to watch. It was you got to have 3 coffees preemptively and then an energy drink while you're watching it so you don't fall asleep. And actually, on that note, there is something I want to talk about with that game. Let me go over the picks first, and then we'll get into that game and what I wanted to mention there. So, as far as the picks, I have added some picks here. One of them, as far as the line, is not out yet as far as where I am currently looking to place this wager, but it is out at other places. So what have I added exactly? So first of all, we have added a teaser, and we are bringing the Colts down to 3. So if you don't remember, going into last week, or into this week, I should say, I was really on the Colts. I wanted to bet them. Like I said, I really thought after that week 4 win that they were going to start turning it around. And they were going to kind of hit their stride, and they were going to not look back. And it looked good last night up until the fourth quarter. They were leading that game. They looked to be in control of that game with the Ravens, and the Ravens just came back on them. And, hey, it happens, man. They're the Ravens. It's not like they lost to the Lions. They lost to a team that is competent, that we knew is good, that has a guy like Lamar Jackson that can bring his team back from pretty much any kind of deficit. So I'm not taking that one too hard, and they still ended up having several chances to win it. And if Blankenship doesn't have a hip injury, they probably do win that game. All of that aside, though, I still think the Colts are really, really good, but I do think that the books have kind of caught on, and that a lot of people are also looking to get on the Colts at this time. And so the line that came out is actually pretty sharp. It was at 10. People bought the Texans, and I think they were actually kind of like a head fake. They're trying to get that line to come down just a bit, because I have that line actually capped at Colts minus 9.5, and that's where it sits at right now. It dipped to 9 for just a second, and that's where I was lucky enough to grab a teaser on this one. So I do have Colts minus 3 for their upcoming week as part of the teaser. That's the first leg, and then the second leg is the Chiefs minus 0.5 point at Washington. That game I actually do have capped at the Chiefs minus 5. The Chiefs obviously have not looked as good as they have in previous years. The Bills just boat raced them. But again, if you watch that game, you know there's a lot of stuff that really didn't help them. The rain delay definitely hurt the team. Clyde Edwards-Helaire got hurt. The wet field just doesn't help a team that wants to play fast. Playing at Washington, I don't see any rain coming up in that game, but Washington just does not have the offense to keep up with the Chiefs, especially with a lot of the injuries they're dealing with right now. I do expect Antonio Gibson to give it a go again, and teams have been really good running against the Chiefs, but the guy's still playing on a stress fracture. One bad hit, one just bad step really on a stress fracture. If you've never had a stress fracture, and I honestly have not, but from what I've heard, they're really painful and uncomfortable, and people that have them, even in their arm, they a lot of times end up going to just get a cast because awkward movements hurt. They get very just like wary of moving certain ways, so they put the cast on to avoid that kind of situation. So I cannot see Gibson continuing up with this pace with a stress fracture in his leg. I mean, maybe it's not as bad as I'm thinking it is, but the guy's showing some guts playing through it. Either way, I think even with that, even with a full-on, healthy offense, I don't think Washington comes and gets the Chiefs. The Chiefs really at minus 6.5, or that's kind of there's some value there on Washington just because the Chiefs don't have any defense. Washington could come back and backdoor that one, but with the T's down to the minus half a point, Washington is, as long as they don't win this game, which I don't see them doing that. I don't care how healthy their offense gets between now and Sunday. I feel very confident on that pick. So that's the first one. That's a teaser. That's only going to be for a half unit. And as I mentioned, really the reason that it's only a half a unit on that one is I think the line on the Colts is pretty sharp. And while I think that they will cover this 3, like I said, I have the game capped at about a 9 or so. What concerns me is that they maybe give up a backdoor like they did last night with the Ravens. Obviously, the Texans don't have the offense that the Ravens do. But if the Colts kind of fall asleep, if they're up by like 10 and then, they just let the Texans get some last-minute shitty score, that could really hurt them, and I don't want to put myself in that situation. So we're teasing that down, and again, it's for a half unit. The other pick, though, and this is the one that has not shown up again at my book yet, was the Rams. So the Rams minus 10 points, and in some places it's minus 10.5. That's perfectly fine. I'm fine with that as well. If you want to buy the half point down just to get it to the key number of 10, that's fine. I actually have this game capped at 14.5 points is what the line should be. And a couple things on this one. So obviously, if Daniel Jones does not play, this is where I have the line. If he does play, it does help the Giants, but it's not going to get them down to like a 10-point dog. They're still like 13.5 points away from the Rams. So not a really big difference there whether he plays or not. Secondly, though, this is one of the rare games that I have my Madden algorithm matching exactly what my coach grading algorithm says. It is literally exactly 14 points, or 14.8, whatever. It's a 14-point difference in either or, as far as algorithms are concerned. And anytime I see that, that means it's a pretty accurate line, because we're grading a little bit of everything if you look taking both of these into consideration. Lastly, strength of schedule also favors the Rams over the Giants. They have the 26th easiest or the 6th toughest schedule compared to the Giants' 13th easiest schedule. So everything's pointing the Rams in this direction. I think that the 10 or the 10.5 is kind of meant to scare you off because it is a double-digit spread. But again, I still don't think it's enough. I'm taking the Rams all day there with that one. Just to go over the rest of the picks, we do have so Texans Colts under 44, and actually, you know what? I'm sorry, I apologize. This is another one that we just added. I'm sorry I did not speak about this one in the last yesterday. Texans Colts under 44. In some places, it has already gotten knocked down to like 43.5 or even 43. I've seen a few of those 43s pop up. Texans Colts. This is another one where like I said, I have the Colts as 9-point favorites in this one. They should be. The grading algorithm has them as 3-point favorites. But again, keep in mind, this is kind of skewed by the strength of schedule. And I will say that with only 11 spots in between as far as strength of schedule is concerned, I don't think that it's entirely inaccurate. I think this is, relatively close. But even if these 11 spots here make it a half a point different or a 1 point difference, that's going to give us the Colts and the cover. And then I really am trusting the Madden algorithm more in this particular game than I am the grading algorithm, only because the Madden algorithm is taking into account some items that aren't necessarily in the coaching algorithm, like your defensive DVOA and a short rest week for the Texans, or for the Colts actually, but that benefits the Texans. So all those things taken into consideration, I do think we're probably going to be closer to this 9-point spread. But the over-under here is what I'm thinking, or what I'm looking at, and I really think that this game is going to end up being like a 24-17 kind of game, maybe 24-14. somewhere along those lines. The Texans showed up last week, and they put up some points finally. I think it was like 22 against the Patriots last week, which looks good. But if you heard my video yesterday, a lot of that was just assisted by the Patriots consistently shooting themselves in the foot. It was just penalty after penalty, and at crucial times, like a third and long, there was a holding call, pass interference call, just certain things that were coming up and leaving the Texans on the field. The way that the Texans play, they are going out there with the intent to have long, drawn-out drives that take up half the damn quarter, and they are asking Davis Mills to be perfect. They're saying, we don't want you to hit 1 or 2 deep shots and get us in the range here. We want you to hit, 15 short underneath passes, and we'll help you out with some runs, and we're going to play perfect every single drive and get down into scoring range, into the red zone, and that's how we're going to get our points. That might work in certain instances where the other team is helping you out with penalties and they're hurting themselves, or maybe you're just playing against a really bad defense. I could see maybe getting away with that kind of game plan, not against the Colts. The Colts do not give up much of anything on the ground, and that's why you saw the Ravens struggle in that first half. They could not get anything going on the ground. Secondly, though, when you pass on the Colts, underneath stuff is going to get bottled up. If you're trying to just do checkdowns, trying to just do like screens, the Colts are really great at wrapping that up, keeping it short, keeping everything in front of them. The way that you get over on the Colts is to hit them downfield. You need to be able to utilize a guy like Mark Andrews, guys like Marquise Brown that can get down the field, that can get behind the defense and get in this one-on-one coverage, and then just let your guys go up there and make a play. But unfortunately, not all teams, and especially not the Texans, they do not have a Mark Andrews. They don't have a Marquise Brown. They have Brandon Cooks, and I think he actually will win a matchup or two if they call those plays, first of all, that let him go downfield and get that one-on-one coverage. I think he probably will win a play or two here. But in a situation like this, you're also relying on the quarterback to hit those plays. And while Lamar Jackson and guys like Russell Wilson, that has also played the Colts, can hit those passes, Davis Mills cannot consistently make those passes. And because of that, I think this game does end up at like a 24-14 game, and it ends up being like a 38-point total. Right now, like I said, I think it's at 43.5 in a lot of spots, and in some it's already down to 43. I still like it even at that number. 44 is a key number, so if it's at 43.5 and you just want to buy that extra hook to get it up to the 44, I think that's still a smart move, especially if you're at a book that's only going to cost you like 10 cents or something like that. I think you're fine there to just go ahead and buy that hook and just play it on the safe side. My only concern with this one and with the under would be that the Colts get into a rhythm early and that they are able to hit these big chunk yardage plays where they're, like Jonathan Taylor is just running over guys and he's getting like 60 yards, every other possession or whatever. I don't necessarily see that, but it is the concern here, and that's really the only way I see this one going over. Other than that, though, the Colts, like you saw last night, as soon as they have a lead, they're probably going to take their foot off the gas. They're going to let their guys run, and do a lot of left-right screens and bullshit just to kind of wind out the clock, and hopefully somebody can break something and basically make sure that Carson Wentz doesn't kill them is what they're going to try to do. So for all of those reasons, I have the under 44. Again, another one I feel like pretty confident about, but not just that. I feel like no matter how these games play out, we at least have a very good chance of it staying under 44. So we have Texans Colts under 44, Rams minus 10 at the Giants, or 10.5 if that's what your book is giving you. Cowboys minus 3 at the Patriots. That line has moved already. That is now up to Cowboys minus 4. So we have a point in closing line value on that one already. Broncos Raiders under 44.5. Now this game has dropped down a half a point, so it's dropped down to under 44, or the total is 44. This was also part of the teaser, the side was, and it was the Raiders plus 9 at the Broncos. One thing I want to mention on this one, guys, I'm not backing off from either of these picks. And one thing, like I said, that you might bring up or you might see in this is that the Raiders side on the tease and wonder, like, man, what the hell are you thinking? Didn't you hear John Gruden just got fired and he's racist and whatever else? First of all, I just want to say, not any sort of race stuff. But if somebody were to like hijack your phone and look through all your group messages, right, like you and your friends, you and your buddies or whatever, how many of you out there are going to immediately start doing like some damage control, right? Like whoever is reading these things, there's something in there you probably don't want somebody to see. And so, I don't know, man. I'm not saying he's not racist. I'm just saying, like, that was that was crazy. Because I'm sure he's not the only guy in the NFL that has said some stuff that they should probably be fired for. Hey, I'll take it where we can get it. I'm glad he's out of the league. You know, if he's going to be that blatant with it, man, you kind of deserve it. Anyways, I'm getting into a tangent here. As far as the game is concerned and the picks and all that kind of stuff, the Raiders initially came out as +3 dogs in this one, and that's when I grabbed them. Obviously, this was before all the Gruden news, and I do think that him being fired is going to impact the team. I do, and I think that you're going to see the team play differently, and I think you're going to see a lot of the players react differently. Now, some people are going to tell you, like, oh, the players are not going to give a shit. They're going to go out there. They're going to do whatever. Or whatever. I don't know. And anybody who tells you that they know what the hell they're going to do is lying to you. Because that's something that we can't know. You literally have to go to every player and ask them, like, hey, what do you think? And how are you going to react? And whatever. Obviously, no one's going to do that. What I do think and what we do know is that this is still a divisional matchup. Gruden being fired, he was fired early in the week. Obviously, it was just yesterday. It was Monday. Team is off today. They already named their new interim coach. This is not something that just came up yesterday either. This has been going on since before they played their last game. So there's probably some writing on the wall already. And I think that the reaction game, as far as the players are concerned, was probably last week when they got the brakes beat off them 20-9 by a Bears team that hadn't been able to do anything and was missing, their starting running back. I do think that this game, while I'm not assuming that they win, I think that line of 3 is probably pretty accurate. The Broncos also are not a very high-paced team. They're not a very up-tempo team. And they're not the kind of team that's going to get up on you and try and put their foot on your throat. They're going to get up by like 6 or 7 points, and then they're going to just kind of run the ball and try and play it safe and try and keep Teddy moving, just ahead of the sticks. They're going to let Courtland Sutton get his, slants and little screen passes and stuff like that. The Raiders should be able to stay in this game. If you look at both of these teams, their average points on offense and defense is about like 24. The Raiders obviously got off to a better start, or I should say they got off to a good start against a better competition than the Broncos did. The Broncos went 3-0, against a bunch of scrubs. So at the end of the day here, I think you're going to hear a lot of media attention on this Gruden issue. And in reality, I don't think it's going to have as big of an impact on the game as a lot of people are considering it to be. Like I said, you are going to have some differences there with reactions and coaching styles and play calling and all that kind of stuff. That might be a good thing, because Gruden was a pretty conservative coach and wanted to coach like it was still 1990. But again, there's not something I can definitively tell you is, yes, this is exactly going to happen because so-and-so is taking over for Gruden. All of that, again, I still like that Raiders +9, and I really like the under because I think this is one where both sides are going to try and play it safe. They're going to just try and not make mistakes, and they both probably think that's their way to winning this game. Next is Vikings at Panthers. Panthers on the money line. Again, this is just a spot play, and this is another half-unit play. The Panthers they should have Christian McCaffrey coming back. Vikings haven't really played well. If you saw them last week, they're super conservative, and they got really lucky to squeeze out that win against the Lions. They got up like a touchdown, and they just wanted to run the whole game, and the Lions were not doing a damn thing. And eventually, at the end of the game, with the very last couple minutes, the Lions finally decide, hey, let's actually be a little aggressive, and oh yeah, we can like pass the ball. That's not a trick play. We can actually pass it and be fine. And they started passing it, and they scored relatively easy. And then the Vikings are down, and they have to try and rush down the field with like a minute left to get like a freaking 60-yard field goal. And they barely win that game against the Lions. The Panthers' defense is just as good, if not better, than the Lions. The offense is obviously better, especially if Christian McCaffrey can get back for this one. The Vikings have not really been able to stop anybody. Even like the Browns, where they held them to 14 points in a loss for the Vikings, it wasn't so much the Vikings' defense. It was more Baker Mayfield just not really being able to execute anything. Again, this is one I think the Panthers are going to win. It is a spot play also because the Vikings are 0-16-1 when they play a winning team outdoors. So, again, this is only a half unit one, but it is Panthers money line. And actually, right now, it is plus money because the Panthers are +1 in a lot of spots. It's like plus 103, I think. So those are the picks. One thing I wanted to go over here as far as the algorithm is concerned, guys, is that now that we are what we would consider the middle of the season, the algorithm has changed. So a couple of these changes that you'll see here. The home field advantage is still the same for most teams. Quarterback advantage has decreased. So before it was at 0.24, it's going to be down to 0.14. The offensive ranking is still the same, but we're not going to go off of the offensive Madden ratings anymore because now we have a DVOA rating that is more accurate. That's going to go off of actual stats and real game stats, not projected stats with the game. Aside from that, we also have the difference in the defensive ranking that has increased a little bit. The average starting field position has also increased as far as the advantage that it's worth. Difference in offensive DVOA is remaining the same, but the difference in defensive DVOA has now been added. So it's not just defensive players; it's also going to be defensive DVOA. It's another way to measure how well a defense is going to scheme against an offense or offenses, and not just the talent level of the players individually. The player talent, though, does still matter because if you'll take a look around the NFL, for the most part, everybody has talent on offense. But the defensive side of the ball is usually where a team is lacking. And there's not too many teams that are like dead middle as far as talent is concerned on defense. They're either really focused on defense and they've put a lot of effort into it, and they've maybe made some trades to make sure, hey, we have our defensive players and we're deep in positions on defense. Guys like the Panthers in this case that have made some trades and that have drafted to have these defensive players that give them depth, they give them talent. And the opposite side of that would be somebody like the Rams, who maybe have good players like a Ramsey and Aaron Donald, but they're very, very thin at defense, and it could just be one injury wiping that defense out. And that in that case, the defensive talent would still look okay because it's only one player, but the defensive DVOA is not going to change much for at least a week or two. So that's why we want to kind of have those in unison. We want to take a look at the players and see how good they are talent-wise on the field versus the scheme that the coach is using to play with those particular defensive players. So, again, I just wanted to say that because the algorithm is changing, and you are probably going to notice some changes in the way that these are changed. The numbers work out. But to go through these quickly, the Bills-Titans. So the algorithm has the Bills as 14-point favorites in this one. The coaching algorithm only has them, really has them as like a tie. With the Bills edging them out on EDSR, and as strength of schedule also goes towards the Bills. So I can see the Bills winning this one, but the Titans really may not be as bad as we're thinking that they are. Obviously, their defense has been the issue, but let's keep going here. Broncos Raiders, again, I already touched on this one. Broncos, as far as the algorithm is concerned, has them at about a 6.5-point favorite. If you want to round it to 7, that's fine. But the Raiders still have the coaching advantage, and of course this is going to be changed now that Gruden is no longer there. So this is where we would expect to see the most difference. And this is probably not as accurate as it should be because of those coaching differences. One thing that does remain consistent, though, is the strength of schedule, with the Raiders having the harder strength of schedule up to date. Browns-Cardinals, the grading algorithm has the Cardinals as 9-point favorites, winning the EDSR battle as well as the strength of schedule battle. The Madden algorithm has the Browns as a favorite, but by like a tenth of a point, basically. So if you're looking to take the Cardinals plus 2.5 or plus 3, I would grab the plus 3 if it's out there. But realistically, if it's like a +2.5 or if it's just a +2, I'm probably just going to grab the money line. Have not done anything with that game just yet. That is another one. Just watching the Browns the last couple of games they played, they can really play however the hell they want to play, and they're probably going to let the other team do whatever they want to do. So this is a game where it could just come down to who has the ball last. And in that kind of situation, I don't think the 3 points is really going to be worth much of anything, but the money line on the Cardinals could be really nice, especially if it gets up to 3 even, because you're probably looking at like a +135. Next is the Cowboys Patriots. Again, Cowboys algorithm has them at about 11.5 point favorites. The coaching algorithm has them at about 4 point favorites. Either way, though, we're at least safe with the 3 that we grabbed earlier in the week. Now, I will say again, the strength of schedule here, Cowboys win. They have had the harder strength of schedule to date, but in saying that, I do think that that's going to kind of offset this here. So the Cowboys are probably going to win this game by a little bit more than 4 and a little bit less than 11. You're probably looking at like a 7-point game for the Cowboys. Rams, again, 14-point favorites. Any way you cut it here, also have the harder strength of schedule. Ravens, Chargers. This is another good game where it sets up to be, at least, with the Ravens having a 3.5-point favorite, or being a 3.5-point favorite, with the algorithm as far as Madden is concerned. Also, guys, I'm sorry, I just wanted to mention this as well. The algorithm is now going to include from here through the rest of the year, and this is something that happens every time around this time of year. Like I mentioned, we saw kind of the changing of the guard, the changing of the cycles last week with teams scoring more, sharps in general across the field. If there's anybody else you watch like on YouTube that you pay picks for, you're listening to podcasts on, they probably had a bad week. It happens every year in the NFL. Every year there's one like reckoning week where the sharp guys will lose some money, or they'll maybe have like just kind of an even day where they push on everything, and that's kind of the signal for everybody to, hey, look, it's changing. The algorithms that the coaches are using, the algorithms that the teams in general are using, that the books are using, it's all changing. It's all coming together. They're all putting enough stats together, so you got to change. You got to stay ahead of these guys to get the wins here. So you're noticing these changes. Like I said, I wanted to bring them up before anybody starts asking questions, because it is this time of the year where we need to start adding more and more stats that can give us just that little bit of an edge to keep winning this year. But the circadian body advantage, 1 point, because we do have a West Coast team traveling east, traveling all the way to Baltimore, and it is for the noon kickoff game if you're in Central Time, which means the Chargers, as far as they're concerned, it's 10 a.m. They're body clocks, where the Ravens, it's 1 p.m. And there's like a huge long study that you can read if you want to on Google that just shows athletically humans are really good from late morning through early like afternoon time. So super early in the morning or really late at night, bodies just are not athletic, or not as athletic as they should be. So that's why you get just a little bit of advantage for this particular situation. The Ravens are also going to have a negative against them here, negative about 1/4 point, because of the rest disadvantage. They played the Monday night game, and they did play in overtime. So if you wanted to kind of make that worth a little bit more, you could, and have this sounds like a 3-point favorite. That's fine as well. But either way, the algorithm has them as about 3-point favorites. The coaching algorithm, though, does actually favor the Chargers by 3 points. Their EDSR does go to the Ravens, but the grades have, as far as coaching is concerned, everything else is going to go the Chargers' way. Strength of schedule also favors the Chargers, so that's going to help them out. So, again, I'm not touching this game as far as sides are concerned, because I can't see it going either way. But if you wanted to play with that one, I really think either way, you could argue me into either side of that game. 49ers are on a bye week this week. Texans, Colts, again, this is the one we went over. Colts as 9.5-point favorites for the algorithm and 3-point favorites for the grade. And again, I think this is probably skewed, and you're probably looking at more of like a 4 to 5-point favorite once we get out of this week and update the numbers. So that's where we're sitting as far as picks are concerned. The Broncos, guys, this is something I wanted to bring up as well. There's usually like 1 or 2 teams that were really, really good at handicapping, and then there's 1 or 2 teams that were really, really bad at handicapping. For whatever reason, the algorithm just does not click for certain teams, and it does really well for other teams. One thing that I have noticed is that it does really well for lower scoring teams, and maybe that's because there's not as much variance when you're only, getting 2 to 3 touchdowns a game. But either way, the Broncos so far, we are 5-0 when betting on games involved in the Broncos. So you may see me lean into that a little bit more as we continue going on down the year here. I think we've covered just about everything today, guys, but there's one last thing that I want to bring up, and it goes back to the beginning of this video. I was talking about the Vikings and Lions. The reason I wanted to watch that game and the reason that I sat through that hell of a game was that the referee for that game was Clete Blakeman. And if you hear me laugh a little bit, it's because Clete Blakeman is just a damn, he's a joke at this point. Not that he's a bad ref, so maybe that was bad phrasing. He's not a bad ref, nothing like that. He is just so predictable. He is consistently, and I mean at least once, but probably 2 or 3 times a game, he's going to call back a big play. There's going to be a play where somebody connects on a big pass or makes a big open run or whatever, and as soon as you see that, be on the lookout for that flag if he's the ref, because it's coming. This past game, it happened with Adam Thielen. He got a pass. It was maybe an 8-yard pass, a little slant route, and he was open, shook off a tackle. He actually got it down to the 5-yard line before he came down. As soon as he stands up, I see the flag popping out. I'm like, okay, this shit's coming back. It did. It came back. It went from being what would have been a 1st and goal to being a 1st and 20, and it moved the Vikings from the 5-yard line all the way back to the 33-yard line. That drive, they still scored, but they didn't score a touchdown. That difference there of the flag really stalled that out, and it made it basically turn what should have been 7 points into 3. Also, one other thing I've noticed with Clete Blakeman, and I went back and I just researched it really quickly. Up to date, the dog in the Clete Blakeman games is 4-0 against the spread. It was Dolphins Patriots week 1. The Dolphins were 3-point dogs. They outright won that game. Ravens Chiefs in week 2. Ravens outright win that game. It was the Bengals in week 3 and then the Lions in week 4. Both of those dogs also covered, and the Bengals actually outright won. The Lions are the ones that didn't outright win, but obviously they do get the cover against the Vikings. So the dog is 4-0 in these games, and the under is 3-1 with Clete Blakeman, going back to the flags and just kind of some of these plays where it's man, okay, on any given play there can be a flag, and I'm sure you've all heard that before, but especially in games where there's a long pass or run or whatever, because if you're looking hard enough, there's something you can call a flag on, and when it's a long play, it's just longer amount of time for the player to make a mistake, to get a little, block in the back, a little chip block, where maybe some other refs either aren't looking for it, don't call it, they don't want to slow down the game, whatever. Clete Blakeman does call that. So unders for the games that he refs are 3-1. Why am I bringing this all up now? And why did I change the screen right now? Because Clete Blakeman is reffing the Bills-Titans game, which is the next Monday night game. I don't think he's going to have the under in this game. The primetime games usually go over, or they have at least so far. And again, my theory on that is that the NFL is specifically telling them, and it would not be the first time, so this isn't some sort of conspiracy theory. This isn't something that is just coming out of left field. There's been articles produced on this. The NFL will go out of their way to tell refs, hey, don't throw so many flags. Don't get so involved in this game, because we want to have a good, fast-paced game, preferably higher scoring, that the fans at home can watch, especially in an island kind of game where it's a Sunday night, a Monday night, whatever. They want to have these good games. So I'm not banking on that under trend this week. Now, we'll probably go to that next week, in week 7. But I am looking at the Titans. Like I said, the Madden algorithm has the Bills as 14-point favorites. The current line is Bills minus 5.5. But the grading algorithm has them as about even. And the Bills barely squeaking out with the EDSR. And about 8 slots in strength of schedule strength. So I could see this one staying a little bit closer. I'm not saying I'm going to play the Titans, but I'm just letting everybody know I would not be surprised if the Titans end up covering this game. That one nugget there, and just kind of in conjunction with the grades that I have throughout my coaching algorithm, is going to keep me off the Bills. As much as I love this minus 14 or 15, I'm probably just staying away from that game altogether. So wanted to bring that up. Sean Hockley is another referee he's 4-1 with the underdog this year so far. You know what, guys? I'm sorry. It's just one last thing. It's already a 35-minute video, so screw it. If you've been with me this long, or if you've stuck with me here, I do want to show one last thing, and that is the Week 7 look-aheads here. So if you're still here with me, I guess you'll benefit from this, because I'm sure some people have already tuned out after the picks. But the Week 7 look-aheads. So Lions at Rams. The Lions are going to be traveling to the Rams. Jared Goff is going to be playing against Sean McVay. I'm sure this will get talked about, but I want to let you know now, the Rams should smash the Lions, and obviously that's not like a stretch. You're probably expecting that anyways, but whatever the line comes out with, because the algorithms are going to spit out certain numbers, it's not enough. Sean McVay knows Jared Goff. He knows what he is weak at. He knows his deficiencies, and he knows how to take advantage of them. Even if this line comes out like Rams minus 14, I'm still on the Rams in this game. I have not looked at the line just yet. Haven't even looked at the look ahead. Just know the Rams are going to smash Lions in Week 7. Broncos at Browns. This is a really good nugget here. So only 13% of home teams that end up as plus 500 teams, meaning that we're expecting them at the end of the season to be better than 8-8, lose on Thursday night football. And typically of those 13%, a lot of those losses from that 13% end up being divisional losses. This is not a divisional game. The Browns, I do expect to be at least 8-8 at the end of the game. I know 9-7 now, 10-7, whatever, with the 17-game season. That 8-8 changes a little bit, but all that being said, I love the Browns in that spot, and I think if the Broncos get the win this week against the Raiders, I'm assuming, let's say it's a 7-point win, you're probably looking at a closer spread than what it really should be. And so I'm loving to look at the Browns ahead of time in this game. Bengals at the Ravens. Again, this is one where the Bengals have started their 3-game road trip. This will be their second game, and the second game of that 3-game road trip, the team only covers 44% of the time. So that's another one we want to look at the Ravens in. Chiefs-Titans. Chiefs are playing in Tennessee, but Tennessee is going to play the Monday night game this week. Not a huge deal. It's a little bit of an advantage for the Chiefs, but that's going to be a game where we'll have to look at the spread first anyways. Thursday night team playing on a Sunday, so the Eagles are going to be playing this coming Thursday night against the Buccaneers, and they'll have a little bit of like a mini bye week before they turn around and go play in Vegas. Also, the Bears and the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers, of course, also playing on Thursday before they host the Bears the following Sunday. Again, that's when I'm going to like the Bucs anyways, but I think the more important of the two is the Eagles in that one, because the spread could go either way for that game, but the Eagles having a little bit of a rest advantage while the Raiders are still kind of trying to get through whatever coaching differences they're going to have. I do think that the Eagles are probably going to be the play there. Lastly, we have two last ones here that have a scheduling issue on Week 7. Colts at the 49ers. The 49ers are going to be coming out of their bye week, which is good as far as rest is concerned and as far as getting healthy because they've had a lot of injuries. The Colts are going to be traveling west for a late game, and I believe this is the 7 p.m. game. So again, not that it's huge, but there should be some sort of like time, body clock kind of thing advantage for the 49ers, especially because they're coming out of the bye week. The other side of this, though, is that teams after the bye week, when they're playing at home, don't always do as well. Sometimes it takes them a little bit longer to kind of get in the rhythm as far as just getting back into practice and getting back into football mode. And especially when they're not traveling anywhere, they still have all the distractions from the previous week of being off and being at home and with the family and all that kind of stuff. So not necessarily going to jump on that one right away, but it is something to look at. Lastly is the Saints at the Seahawks. another one where it's a late night game. It's I believe that's going to be the Monday night game, Week 7, with the Saints flying to Seattle. This one I liked more before Russell Wilson got hurt, of course. Now it's going to be a little bit different. We have to see how Geno does this week, but it is going to be, again, another timing advantage. So just wanted to give you guys that and kind of save us some time from doing another video later on down the week. So lastly, hopefully everything was helpful here. Hopefully you learned something today. If you do have any questions, any requests as far as the algorithm is concerned, or if you want a copy of the coaching report card for this week, let me know. Just put your email in the comments below. I'll send you a copy. It might take me, like a half a day or so. I usually get to it later in the afternoon, but I will get you a copy if you want it. Again, if you have any picks you want us to know, please feel free to leave it in the comments below. Would really love to go over everything with you guys and kind of see what everybody else is picking. Thanks again, and have a great day.